Recording started.
Okay, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Appreciate everybody joining today's webinar with our great partner, Tango Networks. I'm Jason Byrne, SVP of Marketing for Crescendo. Most of you know me by now. I think this is our sixth webinar in the last 10 weeks. So a lot of great technology, a lot of great partnerships with folks, really driving, trying to deliver the message on our marketplace and all the applications and solutions we're adding there. Today, we've got the technology around mobile or mobility, especially around UC. Over the years, this is the third generation, and finally, I think we've cracked it on mobility. The first generation was more around follow me service. The second generation was the mobility or mobile apps in UC, and the industry really didn't take hold of that. I think Brian's going to get into some stats on that, but really the industry shied away from the mobile app and wasn't as embraced as much as possible. I'm not even sure it's in double digits usage across the industry. And then along comes our friend Tango, and Brian really delivered something here that's unique, innovative, and really is hitting the spot from a mobility side of UC. And I think we're going to get into it here, and I do encourage everybody, if you want to find out more about that as well, we do have a mobility ebook on our website that will give you the history of that and how we ended up where we are today. And then Tango, I think Brian. Unfortunately, John Hammond can't join, and it looks like for some reason it shows his name as John, but it's not. But Brian is the one who's presenting. Brian Cassano, VP of Channel Sales in Americas for Tango, is going to present today all about the technology and the traction. And I know in the last, I think it's 6 weeks, we've signed up 9 or 10 customers of Crescendo or NetSapiens platform partners on the Tango solution. So we've really, our partner base has, embraced the technology and really the value add here. So with that, I will pass you over to Brian. And before I do that, definitely, please feel free to chime in on the chat so that you can ask your questions as you go. We'll try and make this as interactive as possible. So feel free to post your questions. And as we go, we'll try and answer them. And then we'll have also a Q&A at the end, along with the contact details. So with that, over to you, Brian.
Well, thanks so much for that, Jason. As you mentioned, we're going to talk about mobility today, particularly around mastering mobility within the UC environment and ASIM, what that means, what it means to our partners, what it means to their end clients and any end clients that may be on with us today. So I'm going to dive right into it here a little bit. And we're going to talk about essentially the new product offering from NetSapiens called NetSapiens Extend. And we're going to talk about what it is. So essentially, from a mobile perspective, what we're doing that's different and unique with NetSapiens Extend is we're taking the DID number from the NetSapiens UC platform, and we're extending that out to the mobile device. And we're doing that natively. So that means there's no need to actually dial into or tap into an application. You can actually make and take calls from a DID number on a mobile device, and you can do it the same way you do it when you're dialing families, friends, accepting calls from family and friends. You can now do that from a business perspective as well. So that's really the uniqueness around what NetSapiens Extend is. It's taking the DID number that is important to the business itself, and then we're extending that out to the mobile device. And then additionally, we're making it easy and comfortable for the end user because we're doing it from a native perspective without the requirement of a mobile application. So post-COVID, everything has become mobile, just about every job, every position in some way, shape, or form at some point. So the mobile device has basically become the universal endpoint. We all use, soft clients and desk phones and things like that, less and less so on the desk phone environment, but certainly the mobile phone has become the universal endpoint at this point. Additionally, there's some benefits and things like that we'll talk through as we go through this that develop and create the solution for certain business outcomes. And one of the things is that comes along with leveraging the native capability in the mobile devices, you're now using a cellular voice service. So what that means is you get better quality of service compared to when you're leveraging a mobile app, because mobile apps leverage a data signal and the data channel within the cellular network. What we do is we're actually leveraging the cellular voice channel for better quality of service and a higher priority. So this way, as a user and consumer, for yourself as well as for your partners, customers, clients, they're going to have a better voice experience with you and have less frustration because we're using the cellular voice channel versus the data channel. Additionally, one of the benefits we have here in the United States is we can actually provide true one number capability, in that not only can we do the voice, extend the voice of the DID number from the UC platform out to the mobile device, we can also do it from a messaging perspective as well. So that's kind of really a great feature that's not necessarily true in the rest of the world, but here in the US, we have that capability, which is really great. Additionally, because we're a SIM-based technology, we can help within the POTS replacement arena as well. We can provide where there's a need in POTS replacement, specifically around voice, whether it be elevators or call boxes, things like that. We might be able to provide a better, higher level of priority calling and things like that, particularly around emergency situations. So there's potentially some help we can offer to individuals, whether it be partners or end users as well.
Brian,
so that's who and what we are.
Sorry, Brian.
Go ahead, Jason.
I've got a couple of good questions coming in here. Will this be available in Canada?
Currently, Canada, and we'll touch on this a little bit later on. We address countries outside the U.S. In 3 different ways. One of them is we have home countries. That's where we can actually provision the service and support the service 100%, meaning 365 days a year. Some countries we can support. We cannot provision, but we could support up to 90 days of service in that particular country. Canada happens to be one of those nations right now. We're working with the carriers, and we're continually bringing countries onto what we call our home network. So we're working on Canada. It's a work in progress at the moment, but that's a great question though.
I've got another question coming in here, Brian. What are the mobile networks used for the eSIM, or what mobile networks do you work with?
Yes, so here in the U.S., we leverage mobile carriers globally in various countries that we provide and support our service. Here in the U.S., we leverage the AT&T network. Good question.
Excellent. And then we got another great question, which is we're off to a great start here, Brian. We don't usually get this level of engagement. So good start here. Next question was, does the texting require 10 DLC brand and campaign registration, or is this native mobile messaging just like a normal mobile device?
It does require 10 DLC registration here in the US. That is correct. Yes.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Well, good,
good questions though. Yep. That's a good detailed question for sure. All right, I'll move on to the next slide. Keep the questions coming in as they pop in. That would be great. No problem. Happy to address them as they come in. So NetSapiens Extend is the universal endpoint. Today, on the top side and top left of the slide, we've got soft clients, we've got desk phones, we have mobile apps. Now you have a new universal endpoint, right? So the mobile phone as a native extension from the UC platform. We're making the connection and bringing wireless communications under the centralized control of the UC platform. That's great for organizations and companies. It's also great for the end user as well. On the lower right, we talk about we're leveraging the existing phone numbers, the DIDs. So the DID for that position, that organization, we're leveraging that. Any calling plans, routing, recording, call history reporting. So anything that's part of your profile for your soft client or desk phone, those profiles are now extended out to the mobile device as well. So if I'm in finance or something along those lines, an industry that has some kind of regulation to it, and all of my calls are recorded, if I pick up a desk phone, my calls are recorded. Now, if I accept the call on my mobile device, that call is automatically recorded as well. So it's a very easy way to extend those calling preferences and profiles and incorporate that into the UC platform, and to do it all natively on the mobile device, to make it easy for the end user to consume and to continue to consume, to use the service. Right.
We got a couple more questions coming in, Brian, before we move off. Do the SMS messages go back through the NetSapiens platform or out through the carrier, or both? And if going directly out the carrier, does it support RCS?
Sorry, Jason, can you say that one more time?
Yeah, so do the SMS messages go through the NetSapiens platform or directly out the carrier? And if going out the carrier, does it support RCS?
They go through the platform. There's a functionality and an API that has been developed with NetSapiens and Crescendo, so that the messaging can actually flow through the UC platform itself. And a whole host of benefits come along with that, because now you have some options that you can do with those messaging and how you want to treat that, whether it be for retrieval and storage and things like that in some way, shape, or form. So there's some really nice benefits in the fact that messages do flow through the NetSapiens platform with the API, for sure.
Great. And next question, Brian, was, is the Tango riding, service delivered by AT&T's VoLTE network?
Correct. This is a VoLTE service. That is right. Yes.
Okay, great. And then the next question, folks, keep them coming. This is great. I'd assume an unlocked phone with no existing cell service could use this service to get phone service and a data plan.
I think you said an unlocked phone?
Yeah, so if the phone is unlocked,
yes,
with no cell service currently, could use this service to get to this, could use Extend to get phone service and a data plan.
Correct. Yes. So we can do everything from voice messaging to data plans as well. For example, let's say it's a corporate, liable, or business-owned mobile devices, and those phones are owned by the business, and those phones are unlocked. We can actually become the primary service on that phone as well. There's essentially two ways we provide the service. One way is where we're the primary or only network provider of the wireless service, and that would be typical in a corporate-owned, business-owned, liable scenario where the devices are owned by the company and unlocked. Or we can actually become a second SIM on a personal device, which is how I use the service myself. I have my personal network that I use for myself. And then additionally, I have a second eSIM on my phone, and that second eSIM is a second network that leverages my DID number, and that's how I use the service. And in that scenario, the phone does need to be unlocked as well.
Okay, great. We got more questions coming in, Brian, but I want to make sure we get to our slides. So I'll
and some of the slides may answer some questions, but keep them coming. Happy to address and answer them as we go.
At the end. So if we don't cover it here, guys, we'll definitely get it at the end.
Yeah, okay, absolutely. One of the nice things about the service, very easy to deploy. In working with Crescendo and NetSapiens, they've made it really easy for individuals to go into the marketplace and make a request just with a few pieces of information, the DID number, the individual, their email, make a request, go into marketplace. There's a lot of nice automation that takes place in the background. A QR code is kicked off to that particular end user. They click on the QR code, they scan it into their phone, and then within 30 to 60 seconds, they have a second network that is now up and running on their mobile device. And you're able to make and take and receive calls and messages at that point. Really very smooth and easy process to be able to deploy. So that makes it really nice. So who benefits from NetSapiens Extend? We'll dive into this a little bit. So the types of individuals, and as I mentioned, just about everybody today is mobile in some way, shape, or form. You may be mobile after 5 o'clock, where you still want to take business calls, but I'm strapped at a desk all day long. But if I move at 5 o'clock, if I go to do something, or even if I'm in my home or near my home office, I may not be willing to, I may not be taking and making calls through soft client or something like that. I've become a mobile worker at that point. But particular industries around retail and hospitality, manufacturing, logistics, certainly the compliance sensitive industries where recording of voice calls and those elements are important for those industries like finance, healthcare, and insurance, where the individual is mobile, but they still need the tools and the profiles and preferences that they have that are associated with their work phone system and environment. Additionally, you've got knowledge workers and field-based individuals, whether it be sales and engineering. You've got legal folks, accountants, consultants, anybody who's out in the field and who is typically mobile in some way, shape, or form, but needs tools to be able to work in that environment. So I always tell a story. I have a brother-in-law he is involved in the mortgage industry. 9 to 5, he is at his home office, his desk. He's working from his mobile client, but as soon as 5 o'clock comes, he shuts down and he leaves that environment. And he's still in his home. He's only feet away from his soft client. But at that point, if any of his clients want to reach out to him, they don't have the ability to do that. And he wanted to give them his personal cell phone number. That's against compliance and governance requirements. So what we did was we set him up with Extend, and he now has the ability after hours to be able to, he now has the ability to take care of and support those services. Going back with workers on the move, certainly from a corporate perspective, IT managers would love to begin to retire desk phones and things like that if they could. And additionally, one of the things that we found through some research is typically after 3 to 4 months, up to 94% of individuals stop using mobile apps for making and taking phone calls. So that means they may be relying on other means of making and taking those calls, such as providing their own personal cell phone number, and a whole host of issues start to develop out of that. Corporations start to lose control over those conversations. They have no insight into those conversations. It could be creating scenarios where it's not the best thing from a health and well-being perspective for the worker themselves, depending on the type of industry that they're in. So we try to help to make things as easy as possible in those environments and support the native dialing to allow individuals to just muscle memory go in there, make and take phone calls as it is. Additionally, some of the things that come along from a soft benefit perspective, as a user of Extend myself, I, like everybody else, on my personal cell phone number, I have 10-digit numbers calling into me all day long. And I typically don't answer them. If they're not in my contacts, I don't see a name associated with it, I don't answer that call, just like everybody else. However, if a call comes into me and somebody dialed my Tango Extend number, it's identified. So I know, even if it's just a 10-digit number and somebody got my number, I'll answer the call because I know it's a business call coming in. 2, I'll answer it professionally as well. So that's just some soft, nice benefits by leveraging the native capability of the device itself. All right. So for differentiations for partners themselves, a couple of nice things here, because what we do, it's actually a very unique offering. So this solution helps to differentiate you from your competitors. It allows you to work with your clients, understand their needs for their mobile workers, and provide a unique solution where you're leveraging the DID, that one number capability, and providing that service out to the to their workforce. So there's some really nice benefits that come along with that. It typically drives higher customer satisfaction and loyalty, because once you start using the service, You know, in my case, I just carry one phone, just that alone. I worked for corporations for a number of years where I carried two phones. Don't like to do that and would like to avoid that if I can. I carry one phone now, but that one phone becomes both my personal and my business line. So that's really great there. It expands your market reach by providing a number of solutions to workers on the move from a compliance perspective, privacy, anything with regulatory demands. So you now have a solution that provides outcomes in those areas. And that's really great to be able to provide that benefit to individuals. It removes some complexities. A lot of times in a desk phone environment, we can now either displace old or aging desk phones that may be out there in new environments, rather than if you have a hoteling situation and things like that, rather than putting a desk phone in those environments, you can now provide employees that maybe have a hybrid work situation. You can now give them a DID number that is controlled by the corporation, but you could actually either provide that to them on a corporate liable mobile device, or you can provide it to them on their own device as a second SIM in a bring your own device scenario. There's also some great capabilities. I just attended yesterday a conference around virtual communications, and all the AI and analytics and insights and integrations that are taking place around voice is great. However, if it's not associated with the UC platform, you lose a lot of that. So more than 80% of conversations are now taking place on a mobile device. If they're not being captured, all that investment in analytics and all the insights and integrations that you've created are great. But if they're only for soft clients and desk phones, then you create an issue. We provide a very easy way to extend that out to the mobile device. All the investment that you've made, the customization, the capabilities you've provided. Additionally, those tools are now provided to mobile workers. Maybe it's a call summary or something like that. That are now that typically I'd have if I was using my desk phone. You now have that on a mobile device, and again, those things are all within the parameters and preferences of the UC platform. So if it's there on the platform in my profiles, it's also now extended out to my mobile device. So that's great. Additionally, if an organization, lots of times we work with clients and companies where they're coming off of very old prem-based environments. They're moving to the cloud for the first time, potentially a little apprehensive. I know that NetSapiens and Crescendo and you as partners all have lots of business continuity capabilities and a lot of backup. This offers just inherently, without any additional cost, if you have some of the users in an organization that are leveraging Extend, should you experience some type of outage in some way, shape, or form, you can actually, through a manual administration, you can reroute inbound calls to those Extend users. And so they can, at the very least, it can continue to accept inbound phone calls. And then additionally, we see a lot of replacement for cordless and DECT phones, mostly in nursing homes and mental health care facilities and things like that, where there may be a lot of cordless phones involved. We've been able to provide a much more streamlined solution, and that's flexible for the work staff and is actually better and easier for them to use and more effective as well. Okay. So some benefits for clients. One of the things I kind of put this at the top of the list myself is centralized procurement. So for a small mid-market business or organization, if a partner can provide me the ability to eliminate my need to negotiate a business contract with a mobile carrier, and additionally can actually eliminate a mobile bill and invoice for me and provide an easy way for me to, on a month-by-month basis, know exactly what my cost is going to be for my mobile services. And it's coming from my trusted advisor from the partner who's providing all of my communications need. And it includes the ability to leverage the DID number, the one number for that particular position and that worker. That's just, I think, is an amazing benefit for many companies if you can help them do that in some way, shape, or form. Certainly providing a uniform user experience, whether you're in the office or on the move, a reduction in hardware, secured and centralized corporate communications and SMS security. All of that these are just elements that provide great benefits to an organization. And sometimes they're things that companies don't even necessarily think about. Wireless seems to be outside the communications realm at the moment. There's not a lot of, there isn't a good handle on it for companies and corporations. So this gives them the opportunity to now provide some level of control in that space. It's really a great opportunity there. Second SIM can remove the need for corporate handsets. If companies are providing handsets to individuals just because they want to have some level of control over the individuals or keep those numbers with the company, should they have some type of turnover rate or something like that, they may want to provide corporate mobile devices. But with a second SIM, in some scenarios, we may be able to provide a more cost-effective a way to be able to do that and simplify it for the end user as well. Corporate control we talked about of mobile usage, the analytics, integrating of reporting. You now have control over, from a reporting perspective, through your switch, through your UC platform, all of the reporting capability that you have. And again, we talked about the investment in the AI tools. If it's analytics and things like that you've invested in can be leveraged from a desk phone is now extended out to the mobile device as well. So there's great benefit there because everybody's trying to do everything they can from an AI perspective to streamline and provide support tools for their workers. Now you can extend those support tools out to your mobile workforce as well. Certainly from a brand identity, I just mentioned even just a simple fact that I know a business call is coming in, it's identified. That it's a call is coming in, even if it's just a 10-digit number, I'll know that it is a business call coming in. I'll answer that call appropriately, as well as voicemail will go to the appropriate place as well. And then you've got some global flexibility there where you can actually travel internationally. We'll talk about it a little bit more in a little bit. And you can either eliminate or reduce roaming charges and things like that, so you avoid massive bill shock in some cases when individuals and workers travel internationally. All right, let's talk about consolidating billing and the international elements a little bit, as well as some of the value benefits. So we talked about one business number and all of the elements around having that DID number associated with the position and the organization, not just the individual worker itself. And there's a host of benefits that come from that. One device, by leveraging a bring your own device, it makes it easy for me as a worker. I get high quality calling capability through leveraging the cellular network. I could do a bring your own device scenario and situation. And typically you'll see increased productivity and capability. When things are easy to use, if work tools are easy to use, you're certainly going to see increased productivity and capability from your employees. Additionally, the one fixed price. The nice thing about what we do and the service we provide with NetSapiens Extend is that it is one price per month, depending on what the requirements are. There's various bundles, but if it's just a bring your own device and we're the second SIM on that particular device, the price that you sign up for initially, that's the price month in and month out for that service. There's no variations from it. So it's really simplified billing, one currency, and then you also have the international capability as well. So it's a really easy way for a company to reduce the amount of time and investment they may have to make to understand what they are paying for when those invoices start to come in compared to working with a wireless carrier. Okay, globally, essentially we handle global in three ways. The first way is what we call home countries. So these 17 countries, I can provision service in any of these 17 countries. You can travel within these countries 365 days a year without any roaming charges. And it's just a great way to be able to provide service to individuals where If it's a known entity and you want to administer and set them up for international capability, there's no additional charge for it or anything like that. But if I'm in the United States and I travel to the UK on a somewhat regular basis, then I can go to the UK. I don't have to make any notifications or anything like that. And my service, my cost while I'm there for making and taking phone calls, there's no roaming charges while I'm in the UK, even though I'm leveraging the service that I have as well. Additionally, there was a question around Canada. Canada calls into what we call home away countries. So these are countries where I cannot provision and activate service, but you can travel into these countries for up to 90 days within a 365-day period with no roaming charges as well. And additionally, I mentioned 3 options. The third option, we'll touch on it a little bit. We recently announced the capability of having a global day pass where you can travel into 128 other countries outside of these, and you can request the service, and it's a fixed rate during that time period on a daily basis for however long you're there. All right. From a value proposition, we talked about cost savings. You can eliminate desk phones and reduce the cost of desk phones. You may be able to reduce or eliminate the need for a corporate device and with bring your own device services. And typically companies provide some type of stipend if they're using an individual's phone and they're loading applications and all sorts of MDM capability, mobile device management, and things like that. You have to provide some type of stipend to individuals. With our service, because it's just truly native on the device itself, companies may be able to eliminate or reduce stipends that they pay to their employees as well. From an engagement and experience perspective, the accessibility of it, the ease of use, the visibility, all of those elements really come into play. So you've got the organization that has visibility of what's taking place from a mobile perspective as far as communications is concerned. And from a usability perspective as an end user, it's just easy and natural and native for me to be able to make and take business calls the same way I do with friends, family, and neighbors. From a control and governance perspective, you're now, by leveraging and extending the DID out to the mobile device, you have all that compliance and control capability that you provide to a desk phone is now extended out to a mobile device. So that's really big in those regulated industries, as I mentioned: healthcare, finance, legal, accounting, any insurance, any of those particular industries where there may be some compliance or governance regulations. We can help support individuals with some really great outcomes in that perspective. And then staying connected. We talked about globally, how we handle international, and then additionally some disaster recovery capability there. That's just truly inherent with the service. If needed in the worst case scenario, it's just one more element that partners can provide to the end clients, and then end clients can actually consume it and just get one more peace of mind knowing that your trusted partner is providing you with as much capability in those critical situations. All right, from an updates perspective, just want to run through a couple of quick things. I mentioned international roaming. We have a service that's called Day Pass. It gives you the ability to travel in up to 128 countries. It's a requested service. And all of these services, by the way, is whether or not they can be administered as to whether or not you give people access to this type of service or don't give access to that. But you can, if you have individuals who travel, you can take your device with you, pay a small fixed rate, and you can travel into any of these countries. And you get, for a 24-hour period, you have unlimited voice messaging and a gig of data service. So it's a really nice, easy way to provide international capability in 128 countries and growing. I believe that number might be growing as well. Additionally, we talked about POTS replacement and fixed wireless devices. So certainly we can be the SIM in those devices. We're currently working with a number of providers, Vola, Atel, others that we have some capability with. Moxie, I think, is another one that just recently came online. Additionally, within this fixed wireless device area, we worked with Yealink, and we now have an LTE phone that is available as well. So think about that from a perspective. You can now provide an individual a desk phone, and where all that's needed is power. You don't have to run cabling, power over Ethernet. You don't have to have LAN switching for phones in that scenario. Great for construction or temporary areas where some phones may be needed. Additionally, hard to reach or hard to run Ethernet cabling and things like that. You can now potentially address it with an LTE phone. So some really great stuff there. And then we come to Marketplace. So this is where I'm going to hand it back off to Jason. Unless there's any questions, if we want to address any questions at the moment. But Marketplace, which NetSapiens and Crescendo have built, is really, truly a great place where it's just easy and automated for partners to go in and provision the service and make a request to get the service up and running quickly.
Exactly. Brian, this has been excellent. Great presentation. A lot of great details, and just the coverage alone is huge and a huge value add. I can have to say, probably the most engaged webinar I've ever seen. So put your seatbelt on, Brian. We've got a lot of questions coming in, which is great. If you can move to the next slide, just so on the commercial side, folks, John Amity couldn't be on the call here today, but John is our sales rep on the Crescendo side, and himself and Trent Dewey do an excellent job on doing demonstrations, getting demos, answering all those questions. So from a commercial and next step standpoint, John is definitely the person to go to within the Crescendo team. So let's work our way, back. I got a lot of questions coming in. Okay, I think. Let me see. My goodness, we got a lot of questions. Hopefully we can address all of them here, folks.
Yeah, and if we certainly, I'm assuming, Jason, if we can't address every question, I'm assuming we can get those copied and then get them out to the group as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So the recording of the deck will be sent out later today, folks. So you'll have all the slides and the full recording there. Okay, so let's start plowing through some of the questions. How do we handle cell carriers that have the SIM slot locked on the phone because the end user has some kind of promo financing or got a free phone? So when that SIM slot is locked, and they've run across this several times, and some of the phones have had to be paid off before they would unlock the second SIM.
Yes, that's correct. And it's something that's just, unfortunately, it's very real here in the United States, and something you may run into. If it is Verizon, they are required to unlock the phone after 1 year. It used to be 60 days, but I think just recently it was up to it was now upgraded to 1 year. So if individuals if they're 12 or 13 months into some promotional program and it's with Verizon, all they need to do is actually make that call into Verizon and make that request. Additionally, with some other carriers, it's true there are promotions out there. I was caught up in that when I first joined Tango. And one of the things that I had to do was I called into my provider, happened to be T-Mobile. I had a couple $100 left in credits where they were actually paying for my phone. I was 18 months into a 24-month contract. I think I made a payment to T-Mobile for $250 or so. And then over the course of the next 6-7 months, I received a $30 additional credit on my bill. So eventually I got it back. So I would just say that if you're in a scenario, either as an end user organization and or one of the partners out there, and you're working with a client and they truly want to have the service, and there's some percentage of their staff that 5 or 10% or so that require mobile service, and some percentage of them have locked devices in a bring your own device scenario, let's have that conversation. We'd certainly like to try to help out in any way we can. We want to make sure that the service is proliferated to as many users as possible. So, perhaps we can have that kind of some type of financial kind of conversation and see if we can help in that regard. And then typically from a corporate scenario, if there are corporate devices, they're typically owned actually and purchased outright in many cases. In some cases, they are not. So you just have to wait to end of term where they may want to leverage the service. But good question. And it's unfortunately something very real we deal with here in the US.
Great. Well, another great question coming in from Philip here. How do we handle E911 with multiple SIMs?
So when you dial 911, that goes out to PSAP immediately. So that is outside either of the networks. So once you dial 911, that call goes directly to PSAP, and that's outside either SIM at that point.
Great. I think that's critical. So that's great. We have that coverage. Next question came in about the POTS replacement. Really, is there any caveats or any, are all the safety and regulatory requirements met with your POTS replacement solution?
Yes. So essentially what happens is from a SIM perspective, we're the SIM provider we're not the hardware provider in those scenarios, right? So we work with a handful of providers. I mentioned Vola, which is a partner of Crescendo NetSapiens, ATEL and Moxie. So those devices themselves are certified in the service and the capabilities that they have. We are just simply certified as far as being providing the capability and access to the network. The same way you would use an IoT or a data SIM, we're just simply the SIM. The additional part of it is that we're bringing voice capability to that scenario if voice is needed. One of the things that an executive from Vola had mentioned to me, think of if you're in an area near an athletic facility or something like that, and that they're consuming some of the bandwidth. If you live near that in some way, shape, or form, and they're consuming, on some night you got 80,000 people and you live in that particular area, there's a lot of consumption of the bandwidth in the area. Would you rather have the ability for your emergency POTS replacement solution to have the highest tiered level of cellular service, or would you leverage a second or third tier from an IoT or data perspective? So just little things like that. There may be scenarios where it makes sense. We may not apply to every POTS replacement scenario, but there could be some areas and situations where it makes sense to leverage NetSapiens Extend in that situation.
Yeah, great answer. So another question coming in from Cole about some of the features. Do we lose any of the functionality like call transfer, conferencing, etc.?
You can have some coded feature capability on the phone itself, right? So you'd have to use some type of coding to transfer a call or something like that. So you can retain and keep some of that capability for sure. Okay,
great. Another question coming in from Noah, really for more folks around the rural parts of the US. In areas with poor AT&T cell coverage, can it roam and use other networks at no additional charge, or can we choose an alternative carrier for these cases?
So great question. Currently today, we leverage and use AT&T across the US. So that's the network we're on. We're not a multi-carrier SIM. We've found some issues with multi-carrier SIMs because if you're on a multi-carrier SIM and there's the slightest bit of heartbeat on your primary network, then in that scenario, it will not default over, even if you've got 4 bars on another network. So there's some give and take with those types of things. We've found AT&T to be the most robust and consistent network here in the US. So currently today that we're in that situation. If you are in a scenario where, let's say, 100 users want to leverage and use NetSapiens Extend, and 3 or 4 or 5 of them are in a scenario where there might be that just AT&T just does not work for them, depending on this on where they are geographically. If that's the situation, let's have that conversation. We might be able to provide some additional support by leveraging another network that we kind of have a background relationship with. Not anything we typically go down unless it's really truly needed, but we do have an option there if needed.
Great. Great. Another question. I think we might have answered this one, or you covered this one, Brian, was, do the users using the service also require a dedicated DID in the platform?
Yes, so that's what we leverage, right? So we do not provide numbers. We are leveraging the DID number off the platform, and that's where the benefits come from. That's the one number for that particular position, that particular employee, their clients and customers and suppliers. They know how to reach them and engage with them through that one number. So yes, we leverage and use the DID number off of the NetSapiens platform. That's how we leverage our service.
And then Mariana posed a question here, which I don't think I've come across yet, is can we use the APIs for provisioning of numbers instead of going through the marketplace?
Can we use the API?
Yeah, it looks like they've got their own provisioning service perhaps, or platform, and they're, instead of working through the marketplace, use our APIs, sort of a go around. That might be a question.
I don't know an answer to that. I'd be happy to have a conversation with them directly if they want to reach out to John, and John and I can set up a conversation. We can kind of dive into that a little bit more deeply. But for Crescendo and NetSapiens partners and end users and clients, the path to get activated on the service is certainly through the marketplace.
Right. Yeah, I would say Mariano, take this question up with John and try to they could probably get into the details, more specifics on that. How long have cell phones supported dual eSIMs? Maybe I'll add to that question. How prevalent are these dual eSIMs out in the marketplace?
So we have phones that we have certified. And there is a list of those, right? So, and Crescendo and NetSapiens will provide that to you, right? So if you have employees with very old phones and things like that, you may want to check the certified list for phones and devices that are supported in this situation. So definitely check on that beforehand. Typically, we go back pretty far, iPhone 8s, 9s, and 10s, things like that. For the most part, we go back a few years, but we certainly don't include everything within the service. And that's true for Apple, Samsung, Android devices, things along those lines.
Great. And I got a really good pertinent question here from Bailey on how easy is it to revoke access to an eSIM once it's installed on the personal device? For example, if an employee leaves or whatever reason.
Very, very easy, right? So not an issue at all to turn the service off and unenable that individual. So if you've got to bring your own device, I leave an organization. So just like all the other services that you're going to want to shut me off from, whether it be Salesforce or anything like that, same thing here. You have the ability to actually just immediately disconnect and deactivate the service on their device as soon as the appropriate time is.
Okay. Next question coming in from Noah. Does this work with ringing mobile phones in call queues? And can users fluidly pick up shared parks or transfer calls to other extensions?
We're a peer-to-peer service, right? So if there is functionality from a UC perspective, that functionality and capability and call flow is extended out to the mobile device, but it's a function of the UC platform. We are essentially just another SIP endpoint off of the UC platform, just like a desk phone is a SIP endpoint off of the UC platform and network. That's how we are viewed within the administration of the UC platform, as just another SIP endpoint. So whatever you can do from a desk phone perspective, theoretically, some of that capability should be able to be accommodated for. It depends on the scenario and the situation and the complexity but certainly we should be able to accommodate some of those elements.
Gotcha. Okay. Another question coming in more on the practical side on the platform. This mightn't be a question that you can answer, Brian, but it's when a call is delivered or initiated on the mobile, on the NetSapiens side. So your phone, the service, does that generate or consume two simultaneous calls, like a conference call? I think the answer is no, but
no.
Yeah.
Correct. It's now you could ring to multiple devices. It could ring to a soft client, a desk phone, and your mobile phone at the same time. That could happen or occur, but it is not a conference service. It is truly just as if you're picking up a desk phone. A call comes in, you pick up a desk phone, and you're connected to that particular inbound call. Same thing on the mobile device as well. So it's not a conference service, it's an extended service.
Yeah, so I think that's a no, ASAP.
Correct. Correct.
Question on pricing. I would strongly recommend everybody, if you want to get to pricing, John Ammon's going to be the person to answer that question.
I think, and additionally, just speaking on pricing in general, I think folks will be very pleased in what they see from a pricing perspective to help you. From a partner perspective, making this a very competitive solution. From an end user perspective, it's providing a service that may be cost effective for you as an end user as well. So and in comparison, or potentially less than what you may be paying for wireless service, but you get all of those added benefits of leveraging and extending the DID number out to the mobile device.
Exactly. It's that dual identity, I think, Brian, that's where the huge value. So it might be a few dollars more than the carriers, but it's that dual identity. The fact that the field service agent does not need to give their personal phone number, which is the biggest bone of contention for folks in the field. So it's all that additional value you mentioned. That's where the value kicks in. Sam asked the question, I think you might have answered it before, issue of locked phones. When the phone is locked, what's the process to work with?
Yes, so locked phones, very real here in the US. There are some paths or avenues to try to address that. Again, if it's an important service to the organization and it's critical to that company and it's something that they've bought in from a value perspective and they really want to proliferate this across their workforce, let's understand if it's a bring your own device situation and 5 or 10% of their phones are locked in some way, shape, or form, then let's have that conversation and see if we can help that organization in some way with those individuals. But it is very real. We will run into it, but there are certainly ways around it. And sometimes it's simply a matter of actually having the individual just call their carrier. Their phone may be locked, but they may be a year out of a contract and they just never requested to have their phone unlocked before. So we come across that quite a bit as well.
Yeah,
because the carriers are not unlocking the phones just automatically when somebody's contract is up.
Right. Next question coming in more around WhatsApp, which might be international flavor, but also in the US. Currently, WhatsApp doesn't allow VoIP numbers. How does that apply to your solution?
Yeah, so WhatsApp comes up as a topic of conversation, and I don't have the full details on it, but I think at the moment that we cannot work with and or leverage WhatsApp from an application perspective. But I need to look into that and understand what the latest situation is on that. So I'll have to get back to you on that.
Okay, and Brian, all these questions I'll be able to send you who sent them, and you'll be able to reach directly back out to Tomer Erster, so you'll have his contact details, and you can get the answer. Another good question coming in from Cole. So, do DIDs run through Tango directly, or do we still use our existing carrier?
Still use your existing carrier, your PSTN provider. We are, as I mentioned, we're just another SIP endpoint off of the UC platform. So however a desk phone is provisioned and set up, that's exactly what we look like from a mobile provider perspective as well. Just another SIP endpoint.
Okay.
And we've tried to make it as easy as possible and provide as much continuity to what partners and customers are leveraging today for their network and their communications.
Yeah. Okay. I think maybe it looks like we're getting close to the end here. How do we go about so next steps, right? When folks want to demo this, is there an easy way to demo this, or is it a heavy lift setup and paperwork?
Absolutely. Yeah. So my suggestion would be to connect with John, reach out to John if you're a partner, if you're an end client that needs some help or support and leverages, Tango Networks. I'm assuming you do that through your partner, but I would make that request. If you wanted to trial the service, we can certainly accommodate that. If there's 5-10 users or so internally that an organization wants to trial, we can do that. For partners themselves, we highly encourage that partners leverage and use the service themselves and proliferate it across your sales organization. The best way to be able to actually demonstrate and understand the values and benefits is to truly be a consumer of it. So if there are partners out there, I highly suggest you get engaged and work with John and the marketplace to understand how you could set it up for your own organization. And you'll begin to see a lot of benefits for yourselves as well.
Yeah, and John has put his calendar invite in the chat, and I'll send it out later on when I send the recording and the slides. But if you're looking to get those demos set up and stuff, John's got his calendar in the chat there. Let me see. Okay, thank you. I think those are the questions. We covered almost all. If we haven't covered them or missed any, let me know, folks. But Brian, this has been an excellent presentation. Probably, like I mentioned at the start, I think this third generation solution, you guys, yourself, Brian, and Tango have cracked the biggest problem on just lack of usage on mobility apps, right, on the mobile apps. So now it's finally, we've got a native dialer, you got dual identity, and all the other value props that you bring. It's a no-brainer, I think, to capture the market. Those field, not just the field service agents, but just the teams in general, where you can now keep that compliance all on the platform. Everything's going through your platform, through your service, and that's a huge value add. So really appreciate this, Brian. I think at the I want to thank John Hammond as well. Unfortunately, we had some gremlins working on John's side, so we'll definitely connect. And like I said, within the next couple hours, I'll get the recording out to everybody, as well as the slides and John's calendar link as well. So great presentation, Brian. And I'd say you broke the records and the most questions I've seen on a webinar we've done in a long time. So excellent amount of interest in the product. So
thank you, Jason. And thanks for everybody for hanging in there. Appreciate it, and would love to have a conversation with everybody out there.
Yeah, great. Thanks again, Brian. Take care. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.